What if morality is a lie? Let me ask you a question that might make you uncomfortable. What if everything you've been taught about good and evil is upside down? Imagine that the values you've spent your whole life believing, humility, kindness, selflessness, weren't born from truth or reason, but from weakness. Not from wisdom, but revenge. What if morality as we know it was invented, not discovered? Friedrich Nietzsche, one of the most misunderstood philosophers of all time, made exactly this claim. In the Genealogy of Morality, he takes a wrecking ball to the foundations of ethics, exposing how our modern sense of right and wrong was shaped not by justice, but by a long-forgotten war between two types of people, the powerful and the powerless, the masters and the slaves. In this video, we're not just going to explain Nietzsche. We're going to step inside his mind and walk through the battlefield of values he exposes. Along the way, you'll learn how your deepest beliefs about morality may not be your own, and how reclaiming that power could change everything. So stick around until the end. We're going deep, and trust me, you won't see the world the same way again. 1. The birth of morality, the master's perspective. To Nietzsche, morality doesn't begin with rules or commandments, it begins with life. And life in its rawest form celebrates power, vitality, and the will to grow. In ancient warrior societies, morality wasn't about being nice. It was about being noble. The aristocrats, the conquerors, the creators, they were the ones who defined what was good, and to them, goodness meant pride, strength, wealth, and beauty. This is what Nietzsche calls master morality. It's a value system created by those at the top of the social ladder, those who didn't need approval because they embodied it. To these masters, bad didn't mean evil. It just meant low, common, unimpressive. There was no guilt, no shame in their virtues. Their morality was a mirror of their own excellence. And here's the key. Master morality is self-referential. It does not need enemies to justify itself. It doesn't define itself against others. It defines itself for itself. This kind of morality affirms life. It doesn't hide behind rules. It creates them. But the story doesn't end here. Because somewhere beneath the nobility's golden halls, something dark was brewing, a different kind of morality, one born not from strength, but from suffering. 2. The rise of the slaves, the morality of resentment. Now enter the slaves, the oppressed, the downtrodden, the ones who had no voice and no sword. They could not defeat the masters in open battle, so they fought a different kind of war, a psychological war. Nietzsche says this is where morality was truly inverted. The slaves, filled with helplessness, began to look at the power of the masters and call it evil. This is the birth of what Nietzsche calls slave morality. Unlike master morality, which creates values from strength, slave morality is reactive. It defines good as everything that serves the weak, humility, obedience, meekness, and above all, suffering. But not just any suffering, suffering that's glorified, even weaponized. The slaves took their pain and dressed it in righteousness. They turned their victimhood into moral superiority. Nietzsche doesn't say this to insult the weak. He says it to reveal a truth we often ignore, that morality can be a mask for envy. Slave morality is rooted in resentment, a French word Nietzsche uses to describe a deep, brooding resentment that festers and twists the soul. It's not just about being powerless, it's about hating the powerful and calling that hatred justice. And this new morality would soon have a prophet, a religion to carry its values across the world. 3. Christianity and the morality of the herd. Nietzsche saw Christianity as the ultimate expression of slave morality. The early Christians were persecuted, powerless, and socially rejected. But rather than rebel with force, they rewrote the moral script. They said, "Blessed are the poor, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." The weak weren't just okay, they were holy. Suffering wasn't a tragedy, it was a sign of divine favor. Christianity, in Nietzsche's eyes, turned the values of the masters on their heads. Pride became sin, power became corruption, and pleasure became guilt. The cross, originally a symbol of Roman execution, was transformed into the center of a global religion. To Nietzsche, this was not salvation, it was revenge. The revenge of the weak against the strong, not by overcoming them, but by condemning their very existence. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Nietzsche doesn't say Christianity is false, he says it's dangerous. Why? Because it teaches us to deny life. It tells us to suppress our desires, our strength, our will to power, in favor of sacrifice, guilt, and submission. It turns the human spirit inward, poisoning it with self-hatred. And this, Nietzsche believed, led to a culture of mediocrity, a society that punishes greatness and calls it humility. 4. The legacy today. Are we still slaves? Now here's the question Nietzsche wants us to ask. Are we still trapped in slave morality today? Look around. Do we admire the strong, or do we cancel them? Do we lift up those who achieve, or do we look for ways to bring them down? In today's world, where outrage spreads faster than truth, it's hard not to see echoes of slave morality all around us. Nietzsche saw this trend as a cultural sickness, a slow decay of vitality. He warned that if we continue to moralize weakness and demonize strength, we would create a society of what he called the last men, comfortable, safe, obedient, and utterly mediocre, a world where no one dares to stand out. No one dares to create new values because the herd will always pull them back down. But Nietzsche also believed in another possibility. He believed that a few individuals, rare, courageous, and visionary, could rise above this herd morality. He called them the Übermensch, or overman, not a dictator or tyrant, but someone who lives beyond good and evil. Someone who creates their own values, rooted not in resentment but in life itself. 5. The secret wisdom, creating your own values. So what does all this mean for you? Here's the real secret behind Nietzsche's genealogy of morality. It's not about choosing master over slave. It's about becoming conscious of where your values come from. Are you living by a morality that empowers you, or one that keeps you small? Nietzsche doesn't want to replace one set of rules with another. He wants you to wake up, to recognize that values are created, not discovered. And if they're created, then you have the power, the responsibility to choose, not to follow what is good by default, but to ask, does this value make me stronger? Does it affirm life? Does it help me become who I really am? That's the path of the philosopher, not to memorize ideas, but to transform them into action. If you've ever felt like you were meant for something more, if you've ever felt that the world is trying to tame your spirit, then Nietzsche's challenge is for you, not to become a master of others, but to become the master of yourself. Call to action. So whose morality are you living by? Are your values truly your own, or did someone else write them for you? Nietzsche doesn't offer comfort, he offers clarity. And sometimes that's exactly what we need. If this video sparks something inside you, if you're ready to dig deeper into philosophy that doesn't just explain but challenges, then hit that subscribe button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share this with someone who's ready to see beyond the surface. Because in the end, as Nietzsche reminds us, he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. So find your why and start creating your own morality today.